You're listening to Artists on Art. I'm your host, Nada Milkovich, and I'm here today with Paysen McNett. Paysen McNett is an adjunct professor at Cabrillo College, and he's here to talk about the new Fab Lab, something that he was very much a part of creating at Cabrillo College, and that this new Fab Lab is enhancing the entire art studio curriculum by adding this whole other technological dimension. Paysen McNett is originally studied here in California at Cabrillo College in San Jose State, and then went on to get his MFA in Indiana. And there you studied sculpture and also digital fabrication.
Exactly. So one of the biggest interests for me in going into their program was that I would have hands-on experience with these pieces of equipment that in some cases are $100,000. Most programs don't let you touch the equipment. It's expensive. Part of what I developed at Cabrillo is specifically designed to give students hands-on experience. It's not just looking at a machine working. It's actually learning everything there is to know about the four main components of a Fab Lab, which is CNC router, laser cutter, vinyl cutter, and, of course, the 3D printer. So they actually get a really well-rounded understanding of not just how to use the machine, what it does, how it's built, how to fix it, how to keep it running, all of the important things that we need with any tool that we use. And by inserting these tools into the art department, we're giving the students, a much higher plateau that they can reach and bring their ideas to fruition. A lot of the time you have beginning students that have these really great ideas, their sketchbooks are wonderful, and they just don't have the hands-on skills or technical skills that sometimes take as much as a decade to develop, but they can get their ideas in a 3D or tangible object fairly quickly with this equipment.
And so, Paysen McNett, just to give some of the potential students who are listening that are getting excited about what you're talking about, you have two classes, 95A and 95B, that are now going to be taught for the first time this fall semester. You're at semester.
We're in the semester system. So 95A is our survey of digital fabrication in the arts, and that's going to cover a little bit of basically everything, kind of get you introduced, not too heavy on anything. Then 95B basically goes a little further into it. I also teach a little bit of CAD and CAM technology, CAD being computer-aided design, but we also already have programs at Cabrillo that are teaching that, so I kind of just give them a taster, and if they want more, they can go on to other areas to do the virtual aspect of the making. And
the reason being is if you are creating a 3D sculpture, you need to have a three-dimensional drawing that you've done through the computer so that the computer can translate that to the machine.
Yeah,
so there are certain programs that you have to learn.
Exactly. There's so many programs out there. I focus on mostly free programs that students don't have to pay a lot of money.
Like Blender?
Blender. We do a little bit of Blender, Tinkercad, all those types of programs. I have specific machines that I've chosen that are easy to work with. They're easy to maintain. I like to streamline the process as much as possible. So a lot of my research has been into not just the best machine for at home or for an engineer, but an overall best machines, easiest to use, best software, all that kind of stuff. So,
it sounds fabulous. Paysen McNett. You also have a website. If people want to follow along and aren't driving, they can go to Paysen McNett. That's Paysen, Payson, McNett, McNett.com, and you'll be able to see your work there.
Yeah, I've kind of been bad about updating it, but ever since I started volunteering to create the Fab Lab at Cabrillo, I've kind of let my studio practice slip a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of different stuff on there. I work in a lot of media, so everything from pottery to 20-foot tall bronze sculptures. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
And then people can also go to Facebook and go to Cabrillo Fab Lab.
Yeah, there's a Cabrillo Fab Lab Facebook group already created. Once the classes launch, part of the curriculum will be students will be posting their projects on the Facebook page, partly to get exposure out there in the real world, but also so that we can kind of chronicle and keep tabs on how we've grown over the years. And we also just finished up a Cabrillo website, Cabrillo Fab Lab website. I don't have the URL on me, but if you Google Cabrillo Fab Lab, it's one of the first hits on there. It's through the Cabrillo website system.
And Paysen McNett, who also has been working with the VAPA Dean, the Visual Applied Performing Arts Dean at Cabrillo, John Grulty, and you are both looking, or you and the team are looking to add more to your team.
Yeah, so right now we're the first group of students, probably 5 or 6 of them actually went with me to the Maker Faire. And we had a booth at the Santa Cruz Mini Maker Faire and then also at the San Mateo Maker Faire, where we brought out a giant 8-foot working skateboard that I made, and kids got to take pictures on it. Actually, adults too, anybody that wanted to. And we let people create a little name tag keychain and 3D print those. And about 5 or 6 of those students that assisted me in doing both of those Maker Fairs are really into this, and they're going to be volunteering some of their time in the coming semesters. In the coming semester,
and you're also looking for faculty.
Yeah, so we've been doing a training workshop, professional development workshops for our faculty members to understand better about this equipment and how they can blend it into their current curriculum. So what we see is that as this equipment becomes more and more commonplace within the world, especially in a studio, that tedious jobs that may have taken hours or hundreds of hours can now be done quickly and easily. And if somebody's teaching how to use an X-Acto knife, they should also be teaching how to use a laser. Now, there's times when you need an X-Acto knife and not a laser. I tell people all the time, if you're going to do a straight cut, don't do it with the laser. Do it with the table saw or a straight edge and a pair of scissors.
So there's times where one tool is better than another tool, and anybody who makes knows that. And
exactly,
a lot of times the tools are what help make the job an easy or a very painful experience.
Yeah. A lot of there's always new technology being introduced into any arts. And you go through these there's kind of an ebb and flow if you look back in history. One of the analogies I like to make is stone carving. And before the invention of the angle grinder and diamond blades, people would get out their hammer and chisel away, and that was the only way to do it. And there was a lot of purists or traditionalists that said, no, I can't use that. It's not right. It's not the right way. And
you're cheating.
You're cheating. And so for me, really what it comes down to is this idea that it's saving you time. I call them time machines because they don't take me back in time, but they allow me to get further ahead. So I'll use it as, again, just as another tool to save myself some time. I do a lot of large-scale figure sculpture, and if I can 3D scan someone, their portrait, that's just taking measurements. And I sit there with my calipers when I do it the traditional way, and I measure out their cheekbones and different points from their nose to their chin and all these things, and I lay it all out, and I can get a pretty good portrait, but it takes me hundreds of hours. And if I can 3D scan someone and 3D print them in a couple of hours, then I've got my basis my foundation that I can then go in and add clay to and sculpt and get all the nuance that I can't necessarily get because the technology is not quite there. I can get all that and save a lot of time. And just like the stone carving, the angle grinder, it literally left the competition in the dust. And if I can save time by not having to wear out my elbow or my arm chiseling away on a piece of stone by using an angle grinder, I'm going to do it. That's my personal philosophy. I just want to get to the end product, and it's partly the destination, but it's also the journey that matters. But yeah.
You're listening to Paysen McNett. He is a adjunct professor at Cabrillo College, and he's here today to talk about his two newest classes that are going to be offered this fall at the Cabrillo College. The classes 95A and 95B, and these are classes that are using the new space, the Fab Lab. The Fab Lab is a Cabrillo, it's a new addition to Cabrillo College that enhances the entire art studio curriculum. And you've been doing various things through the Cabrillo Extension and the Community Open Lab. Mm-hmm. And but we're going to, tell us a little bit about the Community Open Lab.
Well, Extensions is a really great program at Cabrillo that allows non-students, well, everyone's a student, right? I guess it depends on how you look at it, but it allows community members to come in and get a week-long or a weekend workshop and kind of do an intensive in some of this information that we'll be teaching through our 4 credit classes. But then they don't necessarily have to enroll in a class. It's not as rigorous. It doesn't give as much information. But now we're working with, once this they've taken my Art 95A or Art 95B class, then they will have the basics to be able to operate the equipment safely and properly, and they'll be able to sign up for what's called an open lab. And so that'll probably be 2 days a week and allow the community to come in and get access to these thousands of dollars worth of equipment and see how it works, see if potentially they want to go out and buy that same piece of equipment, or if they just want to play with it.
Paysen McNett, that makes my heart warm. It's such a great resource that you, along with John Grelty and Cabrillo College, are offering to our community, that people can actually have access to these very expensive machines that in some ways for some people is science fiction, but it's not. It's here today, and it's an incredible way to allow somebody to express themselves in maybe a form that traditional arts wouldn't be able to build.
Exactly, and part of the beauty of this technology is I've been working in the community actually at my daughter's elementary school, Happy Valley, as well as helping design curriculum through a little company that I started called Makeology. My friend Mary Talpus and I have been writing this curriculum. What we're finding is that these kids, especially like in the 3rd grade, where they don't necessarily have the dexterity to create, they have these wonderful ideas. They can draw them out. They can come up with these extravagant, sometimes impossible, but sometimes not so impossible. But their skills, they can't like carve their name. They want to make, if they just want to make a simple little name tag, it takes a long time to get that dexterity. So it's allowing these little kids to bring their ideas to fruition in a way that they never could. And it allows people that don't consider themselves makers to become makers, that build something or create something. And one of the best parts to me about creating this space in the art department is that a lot of people, they see this as engineering, they see this as computer science, they see it as all of these unattainable areas that they're not supposed to be part of that, or, oh, I'm not smart enough, which is not the case in the first place. But if you have that feeling, you need to put it aside and come over to the art department, which everybody knows everyone can make art. Some are better than others, but everyone can do it. So it's it's kind of a springboard. And I've got several students that wanted to be in engineering programs and were ready to basically drop out of college, and they came over to the art department and they started using this technology, and I said, look, this is the same stuff they're using in the engineering department. These are the same concepts. You are smart enough. You need to get back on that horse. And if you want to be in engineering or if you want to be in arts, they're becoming much more intertwined, and there's a connection there that hasn't really been there it's always kind of been there, but I think this new technology is allowing that crossover and that kind of, I call it cross-pollination of the arts and sciences.
Oh, I love it. Cross-pollination of the arts and technology. That's what we're talking about today here on Artists on Art. You're listening to KZSC Santa Cruz. I'm here with Paysen McNett, and we're going to take a little break, and we'll be coming back talking about digital fabrication and how this can apply to traditional arts. Stay tuned, everybody. We're going to listen to a little more Cesaria Evora. This is Artists on Art. And that's a little Cesaria Evora in the backyard. In the background, I'm here with Paysen McNett. Paysen McNett is an adjunct professor at Cabrillo College, and he is here to talk about the newest addition to the arts curriculum, the art studio curriculum specifically, and that's the
Fab Lab.
No, absolutely fabulous Fab Lab at Cabrillo College, which is enhancing the art studio curriculum. Paysen McNett has been working with the VAPA dean at Cabrillo College, John Grulty, and they've been working on this for several years. It's kind of hard to get new classes in university and colleges, and so it's a bit of a what would we say, process for sure, and can be lengthy. In fact, we also wanted to talk a little bit about what Beth Regards, who is the head of the digital arts department at Cabrillo College, she is also working on some new classes that will be available in 2017, as opposed to your classes. 95A and 95B are open for enrollment now?
Yeah. 95A is the prerequisite for 95B.
Okay.
So 95A is available this fall.
Great. And then also through the Cabrillo extension, you've had in the past communities, the community members would be able to be involved in the Open Lab, the Community Open Lab, which is a certification program, like a weekend or...
So we have different workshops that are basically teaching, if you want to specifically know about 3D printing and 3D scanning. And then we also have one for the laser cutter. Those are our heavy hitters. Everybody wants, it's lasers and 3D printers. Who doesn't want it? Students so far have been able to get trained on how to use the equipment that we have. And we're looking to start up an open lab this spring, so that you don't necessarily have to be an enrolled student at the college to be able to get access to the Fab Lab.
I know that throughout the Bay Area, specifically with the Maker Faire, over the last at least, I'd say 5 years, if not longer, they have had these maker spaces where people can come to, I can't remember exactly how they're called, an open lab. There's one in San Mateo and one in San Jose.
Tech shop.
The tech shops. And so basically you pay a monthly subscription after you become certified to be able to use the various machines. And it was always been hard for me as a mother to go over the hill to do anything, let alone have to go as many times as is required, not only to get certified, but also for the subscription to be valuable, or at least, economically. Yeah. And so, again, I'm so excited that you and John have been able to envision this and actually be able to present it to the community and have this incredible resource available. And if you'd like to get more information about this, you can go to Facebook, where you can see the Cabrillo Fab Lab page. And Paysen's got his own website called Paysen McNett, PaysonMcNett.com. And then also he mentioned earlier about talking about getting curriculum for younger students, not just college age students, but for younger students, like a K through 12 curriculum. And he's been working with Mary Talpis to create that curriculum through Makeology. And Makeology can be found at MAKOLOGY.com. And you'll be able to see what you and Mary have been coming up with.
Mary and I kind of started right around the same time I started working on the Cabrillo project. And we created a curriculum to basically teach K through 12 students. We try to tie it in with the NGSS, the National Science Standards, and the Common Core curriculum, so that teachers can kind of seamlessly integrate into their current curriculum. We started out with a proof of concept, I guess it was last summer, with Shoreline Middle School in their summer school program, and we taught math with 3D printers, and the kids just latched onto it. And one of the kids, there was an article in the Santa Cruz Sentinel talking about it, and we immediately knew that the community needed it, and we trained some of their teachers at Shoreline Middle School, and helped them get a 3D printer, helped them write a grant to get a 3D printer, and they're kind of the first one's kind of off and rolling. I prefer the Ultimaker machine's a really easy to use 3D printer.
Okay, when you say, first of all, there's two things I wanted to ask you. For our dear audience that can't quite wrap their minds around what is a 3D printer, would you mind just giving us a moment and explaining to somebody who's never seen it? Because if you haven't gone to the Maker Faire, if you haven't been in these places that have this technology, how do you even imagine it?
Okay, it's actually a really good question, and I kind of forget that because I've been around them for close to 10 years now. So a 3D printer, there's several different kinds. The one that you see desktop 3D printers, that are melting plastic and making little plastic objects, that's called an FDM printer. That's a fused deposition model. And that's basically melting little bits of little wire, plastic wire, and depositing it layer by layer by layer. So think about a computer-controlled hot glue gun that builds up layer by layer by layer until you get the object that you want. So if I take my Coffeeville coffee cup here and slice it into a bunch of layers, each one of those layers is represented through computer code called a G code, and the computer understands from the virtual model to a tangible object, and it basically breaks that geometry down and gives it a coordinate system and lays down one layer after the next layer and the next layer. Kind of like if you took a ream of paper and stacked it all up. If you take one sheet versus the whole ream of paper, you have a three-dimensional object with that full 100 sheets, but you only have a single plane if you have one sheet. So the most common household 3D printer is going to be a FDM machine, which is just melting plastic.
Okay. And then you have the other machines?
Other machines, you have like gypsum printers, which print with powder and binder. Those are kind of getting phased out. We actually were generously donated 2 machines that don't quite work so well. They're kind of older, and they were the technology was finicky in the first place. We were considering converting those powder printers to print in porcelain. It's one of the common modifications that people are making with these older pieces of equipment. And so what it does is it lays down layer after layer, same way, but it comes through with a binder, water-soluble binder, and it lays down a binder on top of that powder, and then it just does layer after layer like that. And I could go on and on all day. They've got, if you go to, there's an online resource where you can upload your files. It's called Shapeways, and they can print in everything from gold to plastic, or you name it.
To titanium. The airline industry has been using 3D printing for years, because with 3D printing you can actually have an enclosed ball in another enclosed sphere.
Exactly.
That normal manufacturing, there's no way you could have done that.
Yeah, it really opens up a lot of doors for manufacturing, for the arts, think about it as an artist, like there's so many objects that I've imagined that as I've gotten better and as I've learned more skills and more materials, I can go back into my sketchbook and go, okay, now I know how to make that object. Now I can go back and do that. And even with, over a decade of training in the classical arts, I still look at certain objects and go, how do I make that? And it's with these 3D printers and this new technology, they're allowing us to do things we couldn't do before. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that CNC stands for computer numeric controlled, and the first CNC machines were in the 40s in aeronautical production of parts that couldn't be. They needed consistent machinery, and it wasn't until the 80s that we started seeing a lot of this technology and industry really starting to ramp up. And like so many things, it becomes more and more attainable and lower cost as the decades go by. And now we're at a beautiful time in history where you can get a 3D printer for, sometimes I see them on Craigslist for next to nothing. If you know how to fix them, go for it. But otherwise, I'd say you probably want to get a newer machine.
Because they're easier to use. And so getting back to what you were talking about with Makeology and the work you've been doing with Mary Talpus and creating a curriculum for K through 12 children, the ease of which these expressions of these children's minds can be made is so much easier with the newer models. And so you were talking about...
Exactly. Well, part of it is that the teachers, they have so much on their plate already. Yeah. I mean, as an educator, I know that the time it takes to create curriculum and then deliver the curriculum and then, follow up on it, it's so much time. So one of the reasons I was really interested in working with Mary was because she said, these kids need to know this stuff. And I was a student at Happy Valley Elementary as a kid, and Gordon Shepard and Jory Post actually brought computers into the classroom, and it was Apple IIs, and I think we had a Macintosh. It was like amazing, and I had no idea until I moved to the Midwest and I was in graduate school how much of an impact that made on me in the long run. I never considered myself a tech guy. My older brother, James, he was the tech guy. And I was just kind of like, I would break the technology and James would fix it. And then I got to the Midwest and people were like, "You're the tech guy." And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm the artist. I'm the bronze caster. I'm the woodworker." And I was just excelling so quickly. I understood the interface of the virtual world, of the computer world, in a way that they didn't get exposure to it early enough. I think is what it was. And I realized that advantage that I had getting exposed to that as a young child made the hugest difference as I grew and got older and started to enter into this world.
And now you get to do that for your daughter, who's now going to Happy Valley Elementary.
Yes, my daughter Ruby, and actually my son Tiernan will start he'll start kindergarten. So we're working to build their future, and in whatever I can do, whether it's volunteer time or not, I try to get them and all the kids around them, all the kids in the county get exposure to this so they have that same advantage that I had as a kid.
That's so fabulous, Paysen McNett, teaching the young kids and the college-age kids. I did mention Beth Regards, who is the director of the Digital Arts Department at Cabrillo College, and in the fall of 2017, they're going to be rolling out a new 3-course skills certificate for all the art students in arts entrepreneurship called Creative Careers, Discovering Self-Directed Pathways. Great for professional artists in Santa Cruz looking to how to leverage their creative skills into a sustainable livelihood. Little known fact, Santa Cruz has the 5th highest concentration of professional artists per capita in the nation. I believe it. I always joke, you can't throw a rock without hitting at least 2 artists, and they'll probably both be musicians.
Yeah.
And here's some census proof to be able to back my statements up. So that's going to be rolled out in the fall of 2017. But before then, in the fall of 2016, what we've got is this fabulous new 95A. And then I'm assuming in the winter quarter 95 or winter semester 95B will be.
So we have the fall semester and the spring semester. 95A will be taught hopefully both fall and spring in 95 because Art 95A is a prerequisite for Art 95B. That'll come in the spring.
And then also there's another new art class, Art 82, which is a perspective class at the Watsonville Center this fall. It's scheduled to be convenient for our high school students here in the Santa Cruz area. And you'll be able to receive this information, this news course will also be followed by the spring 2017 with a new mural public art class, Art 91. A lot of great stuff coming out of Cabrillo College, and I recommend going to the Cabrillo College website to be able to see what are all the different options that you have. Also there, you'll be able to look up the Fab Lab, because there's a new website up. Well, I guess it'd be a web page. I'm not quite sure.
It's a web page through the Cabrillo College website.
And it's the Fab Lab. And that's what we're talking about today. Paysen McNett has been working with John Grulte, who is the dean of the VAPA at Cabrillo College. That's the Visual Applied Performing Arts Department. And so we've been talking about Paysen and how he as a sculptor, starting from a traditional place, has moved into applying traditional arts with the digital technology, the fabrication that's happening today. And I'm always fascinated with these spaces that kind of run into each other, such as the art kind of sphere running into the scientific sphere, running into the technological sphere. And the fact that through your curriculum, you are really touching upon cross-disciplinary industries and pursuits of knowledge that the traditional university likes to keep very black and white. If you're an artist, you're not a scientist. If you're a scientist, you're not an artist. If you're a technician, you're not, this and that. And that's, to me, is not true. I think that everyone can apply the artistic questioning in mind and creativity to whatever they're doing in their life. Although I am a conceptual artist, so I think you can live your life as an artist. But for you, you were really working in that area where to teach the students, you have to teach them the technology as well as the fundamental art practice. How have you, because this seems very complicated and difficult to me.
It's really not that complicated. I mean, perhaps for some people it would seem that way. For me, it was always really obvious that putting the Fab Lab in the art department made the most sense, even though it's technology, even though it seems like this huge mountain to climb. I remember the first time I opened Photoshop, my head nearly exploded.
It still explodes for me.
Yeah. Well, they keep changing it. But after a very short period of time, I just started picking it up, and I excelled at it really quickly. And so I realized, it's not. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, or you could be anybody, any walk of life. My kids, my 8-year-old is picking up Tinkercad and making objects, and she calls my 3D printer Dad's robot, and it makes the little objects. I actually just scanned her using an iPad app and a 3D sensor, 3D scanner, and then printed a little version of her, and she just was beside herself. And then she took that. It was just the bust of just her at her shoulders and up, and then she glued some little fairy wings on it that she had, and she just started making a sculpture out of it. And that's the kind of application that I see in the future, is like just being able to bring ideas to fruition, being able to freely interface with the technology in order to create something that you maybe wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
You're listening to Paysen McNett. If what he's been talking about gets you excited, makes you want to go make art, then you have the place to go. You could go to Cabrillo College this fall and take 95A. This is the beginning of the Fab Lab, a enhancing art studio curriculum. And so you take 95A, and then 95B is when you get to really play. Yeah,
well, actually, there is actually 2 follow-up classes after that. So 95A and 95B will transfer. And then we also were working, because we're so new in this area, we have it's a 2-year process to get our curriculum approved. We have to actually find UCs and CSUs that are teaching classes in this realm to be able to transfer these classes. And we're so ahead of the game that there's nothing available for our second 2, which is Art 196A and 196B, which is further delving in. Once you Art 95A and 95B, you learn how to use the equipment, and you learn about the space, and you learn how to integrate the software and the virtual world with the tangible world. And then 196A and B is, okay, I'm a jeweler. How do I apply this to jewelry? I use a plastic called PLA, polylactic acid. It's the same. It's a corn-based, starch-based plastic, so it's as environmentally friendly as plastic can get. And we can actually use those to make rubber molds and any number of things, and we cast that in the jewelry casting class. So the 196A and 196B is how to apply this technology to your specific area of interest, whether it's photography, painting, jewelry, ceramics, sculpture, woodworking. It all applies. And because I work in so many different media, I have an easy time helping students figure out exactly how it applies to these different areas. So for me, it's really seamless integration. For a lot of people that aren't familiar with so many different areas, it can be kind of daunting. And how do you do that?
Excellent. Paysen McNett, thank you so much for coming up to KZSC and our studio here and talking with me, Nada Milkovich. I'm so excited for the Fab Lab, and I thank you and John Grulty for doing this, and of course Claire Thorzen and Beth Regards and all of the upper people that could give you the yay or nay, and in this case they said yay.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate you having me on today. It's been super fun, and anytime you want me to come back and talk about this, I'd be glad to.
You got it. Let's talk to you later in the semester so you can tell us how 95A is going the first time and what you're looking for, so we can get the students to take these classes and know that it's out there. I think they're going to take them regardless. The question is whether or not how many people get involved at the early stages. So. Right. Okay, I also want to thank Vanya Benavides for live tweeting and Facebooking so loyally over all these years. So you can follow along in Twitter and Facebook at Artists on Art. You can also look at our video. I created a video. Well, I'm not yet. I've captured the video of Paysen during our show today, and you'll be able to hear the podcast as well at artistsonart.net. Please stay tuned for another fabulous Moon Majun. Where else can you hear 60s psychedelia as interpreted around the world, and some of it even by sellouts? So we'll get to hear about that and hear more Moon Majun. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you all have a fabulous day.